Clara Hayes never asked for much from life. Just enough grass for her cattle, enough water to keep them breathing, and enough daylight to keep the fences mended. The spring sun burned like punishment that year, splitting the earth and leaving her cattle thirsty. The prairie stretched wide and empty, the kind of place where silence carried weight. She rode her bay gelding, Copper, across the cracked ground, scanning for any sign of a water hole. Her hat brim cast a shadow over sharp eyes that missed nothing. The wind stung her cheeks and lifted her hair, but she didn't stop riding. She'd learned long ago the land only gave to those who didn't quit. Then she saw it. A flicker of movement by a dry creek bed, something dark staggered in the dust. Clara pulled her reins, heart quickening. Copper tossed his head, uneasy. She slid from the saddle, rifle slung over her shoulder, boots sinking into the powdery dirt. There it was. A wild mare, black as midnight, bleeding from her flank. Clara's breath caught. The wound was deep, glistening red against the dark coat. "Easy, girl," she murmured, crouching low. The mare trembled, nostrils flaring, but didn't bolt. The smell of blood and dust hung heavy. Clara pressed her hand to the wound, feeling the heat of life fading beneath her palm. "Got fight in you yet," she whispered. She pulled off her kerchief, pressed it against the gash, and reached for her flask. Whiskey burned her nose as she poured it over the wound. The mare jerked, but didn't strike. Copper nickered nervously, pawing the ground. Clara tore strips from her shirt, binding the wound tight. Her hands were rough but careful. "You stick with me, we'll both see another sunrise." It took patience and grit to lead the mare home. She fashioned a rope halter, coaxing her step by step until the ranch came into view. A scatter of fences, a sagging barn, a life held together by stubbornness. She stabled the stranger beside Copper, offered hay and water, then worked by lamplight, humming an old tune her mother once sang. The mare's eyes softened, and Clara felt something stir in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years. She named her Sable, for the black shine beneath the dirt. "You came for a reason," Clara whispered, patting her neck. "Maybe you'll show me what it is." Days passed. The wound healed slowly, but Sable grew stronger. Clara mended fences by day and checked the mare's bandage each night. The two horses shared the same stall now, Copper jealous at first, but soon calm under her voice. One dawn, Clara woke to Sable's sharp whinny. The mare pawed at the ground, tugging the rope as if demanding her to follow. Clara frowned. "What's got into you?" she muttered, grabbing a rifle. She saddled Copper and let Sable lead, rope loose in her grip. The mare moved with strange purpose, across gullies and brush, her steps steady, even over sharp stone. Clara followed, heart thudding, dust rising around them. Hours passed until they reached a patch of low hills Clara had never scouted before. That's when she saw it. A cabin. Old, weather-beaten, hidden by scrub and shadow. The windows were boarded, the door sagging on rusty hinges. Yet faint smoke curled from the chimney. Clara froze. That cabin wasn't marked on any map she knew. Sable stomped and snorted, pawing the dirt. Clara's hand went to her rifle. "Someone's living here," she whispered. She crept closer, each step careful. The air smelled of damp wood and something sour. Fear, maybe? She pressed her ear against the door. Faint murmurs reached her. A voice, cracked and desperate. Without thinking, she shoved the door open. Inside, tied to a chair, was an old man. His skin was bronzed by years in the sun, hair streaked silver and woven in long braids. His eyes widened with relief when he saw her. "Thank the spirits," he rasped. "They left me for dead." Clara rushed forward, cutting the ropes with her knife. "Who did this?" The man slumped forward, gripping her arm with surprising strength. "Men from town. He said they wanted land. I said no. They said the papers were mine, but I would not sign. They will come back." Clara eased him onto the cot in the corner, heart pounding. "You got a name." "Tahu," he said weakly. These hills are my home. Clara cleaned his wounds with whiskey, wrapping them with cloth. His eyes watched her. Calm, proud, unbroken. Why'd they leave you breathing? She asked. Tahu's lips curved in a bitter smile. They thought fear would finish the job. Clara met his gaze. Not today. Outside, Sable stood guard by the door, ears pricked, muscles tense. Clara couldn't shake the thought that the mayor had somehow known he was there. That night, she sat beside the cot, rifle across her knees. The prairie outside was black and endless, the wind whispering through the cracks. She'd seen men like those Tahu described, greedy ones who'd trade blood for land. But tying an old man up to die? That was a darker cruelty. As dawn crept through the boards, Tahu stirred. He pointed weakly toward the hills under stone. He said, "There is water there. That's what they want." Clara frowned. Water meant power in a land this dry. "So they'll kill for it." He nodded. They already tried. Clara stood, jaw tight. Then they won't get it. Tahu's gaze softened. The spirits brought you. The mayor chose you. Clara looked at Sable through the doorway, sunlight glinting on her black coat. She didn't believe in fate, but she couldn't deny the chill running through her. The mayor had led her here. To this man, to this secret, to a fight she hadn't asked for but couldn't walk away from. She tightened her rifle strap. "Guess I was due for some trouble anyway." Tahu smiled faintly. Then, trouble picked the wrong woman. Clara glanced at Sable again, maybe. She said quietly, "But it sure found me." The wind outside howled low across the plains, carrying the promise of something coming, something that would test every ounce of grit she had left. The wind carried a warning that morning, a sharp, dry hiss whispering through the brittle grass. Clara felt it in her bones before she even opened her eyes. Trouble was near. She stepped outside. The sunrise bleeding gold over the prairie. Sable grazed near the corral, tail swishing lazily, but her ears were alert, flicking toward the hills. Copper shifted restlessly beside her, picking up on the tension that clung to the air like dust. Inside the cabin, Tahu stirred. He'd grown stronger in the past few days, but his limp still slowed him. Clara poured him coffee, black and bitter, and handed him a tin cup. "You should rest," she said. Tahu's sharp eyes met hers. "The men who tied me won't rest." Neither should we, Clara couldn't argue. The West had taught her one truth. When evil rides, you either stand or you die tired. She loaded her rifle and checked the barn. Everything seemed quiet, too quiet. Later that afternoon, Sable's uneasy snort broke the silence. Clara stepped onto the porch and froze. 4 riders. Dust rising behind them like smoke. Her pulse thudded hard. She'd seen their kind before. Slick faces, fine coats. The kind of men who believed the law bent to their will. Their leader, a broad man with a scar along his jaw, rode ahead with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Afternoon, miss," he called. "Fine place you got. Shame if it caught fire." Clara leveled her rifle. "Depends who's holding the torch," the man chuckled. "We just want the old man. He's squatting on land that ain't his." "This land's his by blood." Clara shot back. His smile faded. "Then you're defending a ghost." The standoff stretched like a wire ready to snap. The man's hand drifted toward his holster. Clara's finger brushed her trigger. And then, bang! A warning shot exploded at his horse's hooves. The animal reared, whinnying. Dust flew. "Next one won't miss," Clara said evenly. The leader's smirk turned cold. "You'll regret that, missy." "Ain't a soul for miles who'll back you." Tahu stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand. "She's not alone." The man's eyes narrowed. He spat into the dirt. "You'll both hang for this." Then he turned his horse sharply. The 4 riders galloped off, vanishing into a haze of dust and heat. Clara exhaled slowly, lowering her rifle. "They'll be back." Tahu nodded with more men. That night they fortified the cabin. Clara hammered boards across windows, checked every bullet twice. Sable paced outside like a sentinel, eyes gleaming in the moonlight. The prairie was silent, but it was the kind of silence that waits before breaking. By dawn, Clara's resolve was set like stone. She'd fought drought, wild animals, and loneliness. But this was different. This was human greed, and it didn't stop until it devoured everything in sight. Tahu helped where he could, though his limp slowed him. As they worked, he told her stories of the land before fences, of rivers that sang and mountains that dreamed. Clara listened, pretending not to be moved, but his words painted the world in colors she'd forgotten existed. "You see life in this land," she said quietly. "Most folks just see dirt." Tahu smiled faintly. "You hear its heartbeat. That's why the mayor chose you." Clara looked at Sable, still unsure what to make of that idea. "She's just a horse," she said. Tahu shook his head. "Nothing that walks this earth is just anything." The days rolled on, each one tighter than the last. They worked in silence, mending fences and keeping watch. Then one morning Clara found the barn door hanging open. Feed scattered, chickens gone, boot prints in the dirt. "They've been here," she growled. Tahu's face darkened. "They test your fear." "Well, they'll find. I don't scare easy." Clara loaded her rifle and checked the horizon. That night, lanterns flickered at the fence line. Shadows danced in the glow. Decoys meant to make it look like guards. Clara set them up herself, a trick she'd learned years back. She didn't sleep, just sat by the window, eyes fixed on the dark. Hours crawled by. Then Copper neighed sharply, ears pinned. Clara grabbed her rifle, stepping onto the porch. A lone figure moved near the fence, shadowed against the lantern light. She fired. The bullet tore through the dirt inches from his boot. The man cursed, fleeing into the black. Tahu appeared behind her, calm as a stone. "They watch us, waiting for weakness." Clara's jaw tightened. "Then they'll wait a long time." The next morning, she and Tahu rode back to the hidden cabin where she'd first found him. She searched every inch, feeling the weight of something buried deeper than dust. Under a loose floorboard she found it. A stack of papers, old deeds, maps, land rights marked with names she recognized from town Calloway. She muttered, reading one signature. "He owns half the valley." Tahu nodded grimly. "Owns what was stolen." Clara's hand trembled as she tucked the papers into her saddlebag. "If these prove what he did, the whole town will know. The law is his friend." Tahu said, "He will twist truth into dust. Then we'll make it too loud to bury," she said. They returned home with the sun low and blood red behind the hills. Sable tossed her head, uneasy again. Clara stroked her neck. "You keep finding trouble for me, girl." That night, the prairie was restless. Distant laughter echoed across the dark, drunken, cruel. Clara and Tahu stood side by side on the porch, rifles loaded, eyes scanning the horizon. "They'll come again," she said softly. "Yes," Tahu answered. "But you are not alone." Something in his tone steadied her heartbeat. She glanced at him, then out at the wild land stretching endless and fierce. She'd once thought she was alone in this world, a woman carved out of silence. But now she felt the hum of something larger. The land itself watching, waiting, rooting for her. Sable snorted, Copper pawed, and the sky deepened to black. Clara tightened her grip on the rifle. "Let them come," she whispered. Because this time, she wasn't just fighting for land. She was fighting for truth, and for the people and creatures who had trusted her with it. The West had taken plenty from her, but tonight she would take something back. The storm came before dawn, not from the sky, but from the hills. A rumble of hooves, the flash of torches, the sound of men shouting in the dark. Clara woke before the first torch hit the fence. Her instincts had never failed her. She snatched her rifle, boots hitting the dirt as she ran outside. The night glowed red and gold as the riders charged down the ridge like a firestorm. "They're here!" she yelled. Tahu was already on the porch, rifle in hand, eyes cold as stone. "Then we meet them head on." The first shot cracked through the dark. Clara dropped to one knee, returning fire. Her bullet hit a torchman square in the shoulder. The flame tumbled from his hand, snuffing out in the dust. The other riders cursed and fanned out, circling the barn. "Copper!" "Sable!" Clara shouted. The horses screamed, slamming against the corral fence, hooves striking wood. Sable reared high, wild and fearless, her black coat glinting in the firelight. She kicked the gate open, bolting toward the attackers. Copper followed with a furious neigh, scattering two riders before they could reload. Bullets whined past Clara's head. She ducked behind the trough, firing back. Each shot was steady, measured, fierce. She could feel Tahu's presence beside her, calm, controlled, like a man who'd fought too many battles to fear another. Flames licked the barn's edge. Clara's chest tightened. Not the barn, not the heart of everything she'd built. She sprinted forward, dousing the roof with a bucket, choking on smoke. One rider charged her from behind, pistol raised. Before he could fire, a deafening crack split the air. Tahu's rifle. The man fell hard, his gun scattering into the dust. Clara gasped through the haze. "You all right?" she shouted. Tahu nodded, grim-faced. "Fight smart, not fast." Calloway's voice boomed from the dark. "This land's mine, Hayes. You and that old fool can rot with it." Clara stepped into the open, smoke swirling around her like a ghost's cloak. "You want it," she yelled back. "Come take it." Calloway spurred his horse forward, face twisted with hate. Flames danced across his scarred jaw. His men followed, guns blazing, the air filled with thunder and fire. Clara's rifle barked once, then again. One man fell. Another reeled back, clutching his side. Still they came. Tahu's voice rose beside her, calm but strong. "Hold, Clara. The land watches. Stand your ground." Quote. She did. She moved like the prairie wind. Silent, fierce, unstoppable. Every pull of the trigger was a heartbeat. Every breath a vow. Sable charged again, driving the last torch into the dirt. The light flickered and died, leaving only moonlight and smoke. Then came Calloway himself, pistol aimed straight at her chest. "Should have sold when you had the chance," he snarled. Clara's hand was steady. "And let a thief claim what ain't his. Not in this lifetime." They fired at the same time. The blast echoed across the plains. Calloway jerked, eyes wide, and toppled from his saddle. His pistol hit the ground beside him. The torch he carried went out, its flame crushed into dust. For a moment, the world was silent. Then the rest of his men broke, fleeing into the dark. Clara stood there, breathing hard, rifle smoking, hands trembling only after the danger had passed. The sky was pale with early dawn, and the first hint of sun crept over the hills. Tahu limped toward her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "It is done." Clara looked at the ground where Calloway lay, then toward the horizon. For now, she knew men like him didn't die alone. Greed had deep roots, and others would come for the same water, the same power. But she wasn't the same woman anymore. She'd faced wolves, both with fur and without. As the sun climbed higher, Clara and Tahu buried the fallen by the cottonwoods. No prayers, no words, just respect for the land that would hold them now. Clara laid Calloway's pistol on the mound of dirt. "Let the ground take what it's owed," she whispered. Over the next days, neighbors came. They'd heard the gunfire, seen the smoke. Some brought tools, others food. All brought stories of how Clara Hayes and an old Apache elder had stood against Calloway's gang. They rebuilt together, raising walls, mending fences, sharing laughter. The ranch that once stood alone became a gathering place, a sign of hope, in a land where hope was rare. Sheriff Harlan rode up one evening, hat low over tired eyes. "You know, this fight stirred up the whole county." He said Calloway had friends in every bank and office. Clara met his gaze. "Then they'll come too. I'll be waiting." He sighed, but smiled faintly. "You're one hell of a woman, Hayes," she shrugged. just stubborn. Weeks turned into months. The land healed. Grass grew again near the creek. The barn stood rebuilt, stronger than before. Sable ran free now, her black coat shining under the sun. Copper grazed beside her, loyal as ever. At night, Clara sat on her porch beside Tahu. He told stories of rivers that remembered names and stars that guided souls home. She listened, her heart steady. For the first time in years, the silence didn't hurt. It felt full, alive. Sometimes travelers stopped by, curious about the woman who'd fought a war for her land. They asked her why she stayed. Clara would smile, tip her hat, and say, "Because it's mine." But deep inside, she knew it was more than that. It was Tahu's land, and the land of those who came before him. It was every dream the West had swallowed, and every bit of courage it had tried to crush. It was the bond between a woman, 2 horses, and an old man who'd taught her that the earth itself can fight back, if someone's brave enough to listen. And every evening, when the wind shifted and the prairie glowed gold, Sable would walk to her side. Clara would rest her hand on the mare's neck and whisper, "You found me for a reason, didn't you, girl?" The wind would sigh through the grass, soft and certain, like an answer. The West had taken much from Clara Hayes, but in its harsh way, it had also given her everything. A purpose, a home, and a story that would live long after she was gone. And when folks spoke of her name in the years that followed, they said she was the woman who stood her ground, who tamed fire with courage and turned a curse into something sacred. A cowgirl, a horse, and a promise that justice could still rise from the dust.